brooding, football, beer. What is her name? Megan Fox. What do all these things have in common? Celebrated in the culture of men. Manly men. Men who do things that are manly. Not showing your feelings. Gunslinging and saving old west towns. I don't know why I believe the height of masculinity was the Western era. That might have to do with that one guy from the YMCA. That's not what they're called. From the Village People. Just kind of set the mood. I also grew up in rural Oregon. For the first time ever, I'm going to be making men's clothes. Not because you told me to, because I want to. I'm doing it on my own, of my own volition. In the words of some, masculinity is a prison, but I think it's more like a very boring resort. Feel free to hang out by the pool, but you have to wear pants and a t-shirt and no skirt longer than knee length. I sometimes wonder if men would be allowed to wear skirts if they were described as Wrangler jeans but with one very wide leg. I'm talking as if I don't like wearing pants. I'm fine with pants. I just sometimes wish I could go to the grocery store in a Baroque gown. I wouldn't need a shopping cart. I can just put all the products in baskets under my panniers. I've decided that I want to make a men's jacket. I've made them before and they've turned out decent. And so I really want to master that skill today. So buckle up, buttercups. For the first time, I'm making men's clothes on this channel. I should have moved this lamp for this shot, shouldn't I have? Without further ado, the design for this coat was largely influenced by mid-19th century men's jackets, but on mine the vest would essentially be a part of the jacket itself and sewn in as the front panel. I also had some notable Lord of the Rings elvish inspiration, and I'm also trying to look as gay as possible in men's clothing. Okay, so this one is for the boys. Boys. Boys only can watch this video. If you're not a boy or don't want to wear boy clothes, get out of here! I'm pretty sure that men are not my demographic, actually. If I only allowed men to watch my videos, this would get 3 views. As you can see, Janine is currently wearing something, and I don't want to deface her on camera. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the pattern on myself, which I know I've said before you totally can do. I have never done it in my life. I'm sorry to be this much of a disappointment to you all. But today I am going to put my money where my mouth is, even though I don't have money and my mouth is very small. So we're gonna drape it on, cut it out, and we're gonna make a pattern on my body. Another reason I'm not using my dress form for this is because this is one of those rare times that I don't want my sewing projects to be in the shape of a woman. A lovely hourglass figure. Instead I want it to be a stocky, slightly wide in the middle man. Straight down with a little bump. Alright, let's get going. I will not be objectified. Toss the fabric onto your body like you're trying to hide the new refrigerator you purchased with your child's college fund before your husband notices and finally breaks out the divorce papers. And then trace out the general form of a torso. Now I know I'm not giving very detailed directions on what pieces you should be cutting out, but you're gonna end up with 3, the front, back, and the side, which I have a diagram here, and your pieces should roughly look like this. Okay, I made a pattern. It doesn't look awful, but it doesn't look great. But look, the fact that I did it on myself and it worked out anyway with me having never done it and lying to you all and telling you that it can be done, I feel on cloud 9. I feel I can do anything. I could rob a bank and get away with it. Like, I am more powerful than God right now, okay? I want to knock something over, but there's nothing I can knock over that would... So there's a big hole in this fabric, a God-sized hole, or a fabric-sized hole. So I have less of it than I thought, so I have to be quite stingy. Now the way that's going to manifest itself is I'm going to cut the pieces out like I normally do, and then deal with it later. Lay your pattern onto the fabric and cut out the pieces with about an inch for seam allowance. It should look like the rough shape of the top of a T-Rex skull. Because I'm using a symmetrically patterned fabric, I'm going to flip over the first piece and match up the patterns as much as possible. Now do the same with the lining fabric, or as I like to call it, the jacket's underskin. Put the outer piece and the lining piece together, making them kiss under the summer moonlight, and sew them together, forever binding their love and matrimony. Look at you, you little justice of the peace. Okay, so I'm gonna need you to completely ignore this next part of the video. I decided that I should try something else, but ultimately went back to my original pattern, but I decided to leave this section in order to show you all that I am indeed human, and I do indeed make mistakes. I mean, it's not true. I am 75% God, and mistakes are just my happy little accidents, and I'll just cover it with a bush. So I've decided the pattern is not really gonna work for this particular project. The issue is that this coat is going to have that long train, and so, it's gotta be floofy at the bottom. And what I'm gonna do is just essentially pin up this curtain, drape this curtain, if you will, in a pattern that will leave that excess gold flowy fabric at the bottom. And it'll just be easier, I think, hopefully, than cutting a bunch of different pieces of fabric. Well, that didn't work at all. I'm gonna go back to my original plan of just putting the pattern pieces down, but I'm gonna do it in a slightly unconventional way, and I guess we'll see how that works out. It does mean that I won't be able to have any lining on the jacket, but I think I'm okay with that. I am not entirely sure what I am doing in this clip, but I felt that it was important, so I included it anyway. If anyone has any ideas, go ahead and leave it in the comments and I will ignore it. So I did something a little unorthodox for me. I cut the back and the side pieces out. This is the back piece, this is the side piece, and then I've left the length on the bottom. Oh, okay, so that's what I was doing. You can go ahead and delete your comments now. So this is odd. This process, essentially what I've done is I've pinned it together and then I've left this slit open here at the bottom so it flows out, if that, if that makes any sense. Just so it's one continuous piece. That's kind of what I'm going for with this jacket. I think it's going to work. And if I just keep saying that, I will convince myself. Next step, cut out the lining pieces. Yeah, remember when I told you that I wasn't gonna have lining in this? Well, that was a non-truth, which is a Christian way of saying I lied. So we've already attached the lining to the front panel. Now, obviously the front panel is the only one, in my design at least, that has this brocade fabric on the front. Now we can go ahead and flip those inside out, and that will look something like this. Really hope this works out. I do not want to waste this fabric again. Oh yeah, I remembered where that big hole in the fabric came from, and it was this monstrosity that I created, which looks like a Paris runway fashion show designed for jellyfish. Anyway, we're gonna sew those lining pieces together, like so. Do that. So I was up till like 3 in the morning last night trying to figure out how to sew this jacket properly, and I realized I'm gonna have to go back on a lot of the work that I did. So if you'll remember, on the front pieces, I sewed up pretty much all the way around it. Well, no, that was wrong. All I want to do is sew up the bottom of the piece, and so for the rest of it, I've had to unstitch. Now that's because I'm going to have to fold these in and sew it underneath to connect it to the rest of the jacket. So I've essentially made the time on this jacket twice as long. So that's fun. So the next step is connecting the jacket pieces together. You know what I always say, a jacket that takes twice as long is twice as fun. Oh, battery's dying. That's so cute. Am I just unprofessional? Yes. And I don't charge my batteries, or is my battery dying permanently? I'm not in focus, am I? Okay, let's do this really quick before my battery dies. So, what we want to do is connect the shoulder pieces. So obviously back, front, and then the side piece is going to swing around and tuck in. So what I did was I just flipped the front piece inside out, tucked the shoulder piece where it's going to connect in, and then just sewed that up. I hope that made sense. And there we have it. I feel like because I'm making men's clothes, I have to talk about manly stuff. And I know nothing about football. Wieners. Testosterone. Victorian gap. No. And we're fully charged and ready to go. So while I was out, I hemmed the, what do I call that? Side? The thing that, what hangs in front of my crotch. So next step, I think, is to sew the gold part of, I'm confused. So next up is to secure the back portion and side portion to the front pieces here. So this is going to be hard to explain, but what I'm doing here is flipping the front piece inside out and pushing the side piece through it, and pinning the two together. When I flip the front piece outside in, back to normal, there will not be a seam. It's a lot like making the bed in the sense that it's confusing and I don't do it a lot. Try it on, make sure it looks nice, and sew it together. Oh, hi there. I didn't see you there. Ooh. I'm sorry, did you catch me dancing? Ah, I'm feeling my Elton John fantasy at the moment. So this is where we are so far. It's looking good, actually. It's looking really good. I'm very happy with how everything connected, how everything came together. Next step. So I want a piece of fabric to go around the neck, and then it has to attach to this. So I'm gonna make a pattern first, so let's do that. I held up a piece of sacrificial fabric to my neck and started sawing away at it with a marker. It matched up with the jacket kind of perfectly, and I know that right now it looks like I'm trying and failing to cover up a hickey, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Cut out your pattern piece, leaving about 1 inch of seam allowance. Flip it over and try to match up that pattern as best you can on another piece of brocade, and then cut it out. Cut it out as in like, cut the piece out, not stop. Now do the same thing with your lining pieces. As you can see, I did not get this shot in frame, but that's not because I'm unprofessional. That's because I'm an artist. Okay, so what we're going to do is pin the collar upside down, and then we're going to do the same thing with the lining on the other side. Sew that up, then flip it over, and there you have it. Now sew that on like a child in a Russian sweatshop. Overall, that looks very good. Next step, we're going to just sew up all along this edge, tuck that in, sew it up, like so. So at this point, I decided I was going to make a vest to go underneath this coat, and I'm fairly certain no one wants to sit through 45 minutes of this, and so I'm pulling a hobbit and making this into 2 parts. So hold tight, my little chickadees, and I'll be back another day to learn you some sewing. Until next time, bye! Oh, I'm recording. What?